I want to thank Mike for the kind words. I want to thank Joe, Bob, and the rest of the team for a chance to visit with you for just a few moments on something that has become a topic of significant interest across the country, including Indiana in a number of ways, and it's water management in jails. I'm not talking about laundry. I'm not talking about kitchens and things like that. Specifically where we're interested in is what's going on in the cell environment. And there's a lot happening. Quick, who we are. We're typically known for security fixtures. So if it's a combi or a toilet or a shower or and so on, it's what we do. We're based here in Indianapolis. We're in Park 100. We have a 250,000 square foot plant we moved into 5 years ago. Family owned, and I put that up, but it brings me to think about Joe's company, Mike's company, the window companies, and others, T.J. Rogers with Accurate. There are a tremendous number of family-owned businesses involved in this team. And that may or may not be important to you, but it's a fact, and we're very proud of that fact. We have approximately 115 people, and we have employed for a number of years work release people from the Indianapolis Men's Work Release Center that came out of the state facilities. And they've been an excellent resource, and we've had good results with it, and it's been a great thing. We are a U.S. manufacturer, and I say really because we really are. We make it here. It's very important to us that we do that. And we've been in the water management, specific to what we're going to discuss today briefly, since '96 as technology has emerged. This is our plant over in Park 100. For those of you that are not from the area, that's the northwest side of Indianapolis, just inside the I-465 loop. To Joe's point, earlier he mentioned stability of people that are involved in your project. And you know, we've been very fortunate, thanks to a number of people in this room, to be able to be in a position we're in today. Being debt-free, we own our own building, we have no commitments to anybody, and the bank doesn't own us, and it's a great thing, and we love it, and it's due to loyal customers we've had. Just a smattering of what we make. One thing Mike pointed out earlier was the mental health component, and I know we're going to talk more about that today, but on the mental health side of things, there are fixtures being developed. And I'm not just talking plumbing fixtures, I'm talking accessories, I'm talking beds, bunks, lights, including plumbing fixtures, different things specifically intended to be used in the mental health environment, ligature-resistant type fixtures. That's become a big business. Electronic water management, what is it? It's typically, in our world, low-voltage technology that's used to control the flow of water either in a specific cell or perhaps in a shower area of a facility, which we all have. And it's basically there to control the use, and I like to say also the misuse of the fixtures that you have. It consists of hardware controllers, software, push buttons, cabling, and some other goodies. What's it offer? It offers you control over your facility. When we introduced our first system in '96 at an American Society of Plumbing Engineering show in Phoenix, we thought we had the answer, and we thought we knew why people were going to need this product. And our thought was it would save water. That's what they want to do. Everybody wants to save water. Yes and no. A lot of what the systems are about nowadays is control over your facility. To the security electronics folks, they're providing you with controls of doors and locks and all different things. We're offering control of the plumbing fixtures for a variety of reasons. And there's different types of controllers for different types of applications and different types of budgets. A new jail construction that goes on today, I would say 70% of them have some type of electronic water management going into them. And so it's something you should consider with your design professionals. The architects in the room, we have engineers in the room, the contractors in the room. Many of them are familiar with it and how it's applied. It can be used facility-wide or it could be used in specialized areas. We were in a facility recently in Texas where their biggest problem in a 1,150-bed facility was the segregation area. And the segregation area was a real problem for abuse of anything they could control within the cell, and that includes fixtures. They also had some showers in the cells that were being misused, and they were frustrated. And so their specific interest and their specific budget directed them towards some type of control for those. And that can be done in, again, facility-wide or in an individual cell that you might be considering. And it's often considered in response to a cost-saving need or a facility-damaging event. I had a really cute video I liked. It was going to come next, and it was a television clip from Spokane, Washington, recently, where the TV station panned over to the jail commander at the local jail, and they were showing water rolling down through the ceiling tiles into their administrative areas. And the reason was the inmates decided at noon, 12 inmates decided they were going to flood their cells. And the way they flood their cells is they plug the toilets, and then they just start flushing and let them go. And here comes the water, and here comes the problems associated and costs associated with that type of disruption. And that goes on. I can't tell you how many times we hear this story, over and over and over. So as you go and you say, what am I going to do in my new facility, and what do I want to include and what I don't want to include, it's something perhaps you should take a look at. There are different types. I'm going to rattle through three quickly. There are fixture-specific controllers. So if you want a controller just to control a combi, you want a controller just to control a toilet, you want a controller to control just a shower, that's an option. It's available. If you want to have standalone, our version of it is called cell valve controllers. They can control, they're more universal. They can control anything you might have. So you may have an area that has for instance, in Mike's cell, there's a toilet in the cell, there's a lavatory in the cell, there's a shower in the cell, and you want to control all of those. Easy to do. Easy to integrate into your security electronic system too, if that's what you choose to do. And that would be number three, if you network them. Any fixture type connected to a dedicated PC or to a security electronic system, which we'll talk about this afternoon. So different levels. This is a quick shot of a combi controller. It's a little about 2 inches by 5 inches, and it's a fixture-specific unit, as I mentioned earlier. Provides control over flushing and lavatory run times. It gives you a flush delay. It gives you overflow prevention. So they can't flood the cells if you equip your fixture properly. Simple to install, and it's easy to adjust the timing. I mean, you've got adjustments for how long, how many flushes, and how long a run time on your lavatories, and then the delays that you choose to put in if you do. Joe? This will typically go in a chase, so somewhere behind but close by. And it's powered by 24-volt AC power, so you just step it down from 110 that's typically available. And so while we'd use this frequently in new construction, those of you that may consider something for an existing facility, hey, this might be an option for you. It's easy to put in, it's easy to maintain, and there's not much to go wrong. Same to a shower, a similar version, and you can see the bullet points, but that little controller, which is about the same size, controls the equivalent of 4 showers. You have a shower room, you have a shower area, great. Here's 4. You can hook up the push buttons, hook up the valves, and you're rolling, and you've got some limitations on the function of the showers. And then one for the toilet does similar things. This will handle 4 toilets. So you're getting the idea of what's available along those lines. If you choose to get a little bit fancier and want more functionality, it can be done with something known as a cell valve controller. It has 6 I/O, so 6 inputs. An input would be a push button from a valve, a lav valve, a shower valve, a toilet flush valve, whatever it might be. And then the outputs accordingly with that. And they're pre-programmed for timing. How long do you want your showers to run? When do you want them to run? When do you want them to lock out? Specific to the cells and the precast cells, whether it's precast or prefabricated steel, a lot of times showers are integral to those cells. And if you're running a facility and you want to control your water, I would suggest you might not want to have it on 24 hours a day. And so you can adjust that and program that. These are pretty simple to troubleshoot when there is an issue, and there's telephone support available. That's a larger shot. This is about a 6-inch by 8-inch module, again, a 6 I/O controller. You can network these devices, and this is what's happening more and more in a lot of facilities, is great, I want that control, I want it back at my guard station, I want it at my maintenance department, I want to have different levels of control in those stations, so that I give my people control over the function of the fixtures in the facility. And it's very valuable. I can't tell you how many shower areas I've seen over the years. Trenton State Prison in New Jersey, you walk through there and they basically have a guard that comes in, flips on the valve, showers run for an hour, and they cycle people through, and then they might flip it off, and then maybe they'll run them a little bit later. Those are the old days, and the new technology that's out there can give you better control over your facility. You can remotely enable or disable fixtures. If you're going to have a shakedown with a network system, you can very simply disable all the fixtures. Nobody can flush any contraband, and you are in control of your facility. Logging of fixture use. Sometimes there's lawsuits involved. Inmates obviously sue for anything. I'll never forget at a previous seminar I was at years ago, a guy named Tony Turpin, who used to be a warden at a facility. He used to joke. He said, I got a stack of lawsuits so tall a show dog couldn't jump over. Well, they'll sue for, well, you disabled my toilet, or you didn't let me use something, or this was wrong, or that was wrong with regards to the fixtures. And that might sound like it's an unusual thing, but I'm not too sure it is. And you can actually log the use. You can log alarms. You can log overflow alarms. You'll get a notification if somebody's trying to flood the toilet. And again, all back to control. Scheduled use, we touched on scheduled use of the fixtures. Typically that would apply to a shower area or a shower in a cell, where you could say, okay, for G-Wing gets showers from 6 a.m. to 6:30. Okay, that's it. Take your shower. You miss it, you miss it. And the water's off for the other 23 and a half hours in the shower. It's up to you. I'm not suggesting that, but it is very common technology that's available now and is relatively easy to integrate into your project. Flush guard is something where you would avoid a situation where a lot of times inmates will say, okay, at high noon, we're all going to flush our toilets. That can create havoc with a plumbing system. If there's any contractors in here, they may have seen it. It will destroy a plumbing system. And so what that does is it sequences the requests from the different flush valve push buttons, and then individually controls the function of the flushing from that point on until all of them are flushed. Mentioned earlier, you can integrate to via CAN bus. That's a controller area network. But basically what it means is you can integrate it back to a PC, an operator workstation, at your guard station in your maintenance department, or you can integrate it back through the front end or operator workstation that's part of your security electronics package. There's different options. There's graphical layouts available. You think, well, my people, I get new people, it's hard to train, it's hard to keep people up to speed. No problem. This is a representation of a jail area for an Indiana jail, and was done recently, and basically it's a graphical layout, and this is what your operator would see. So he can go over and he can click on any one of those cells, and at that point he can control the function, whether it's the lav, the toilet, and if there's showers also, he can do that as well. He can enable them, he can disable them, he can change run times, he can look at alarms, he can see usage. Whatever you want to do, essentially, with regards to the function of that. And they can, again, do the same thing for other fixtures, including showers. But it's very simple to use and understand. So we've tried to make the technology simple, Windows-based, on an operator workstation. Some of this is like, oh my gosh, this is like, I got to remember this, I got to remember steel cells, I got to remember door locks, and I got to remember the right kind of window, and it gets a little overwhelming to people that don't live in the construction world, and I understand that. And part of our goal is to recommend some ways on how you might get started. If my recommendations are what you see here, define the need. Really, what are you trying to do? What do you want to do? as far as control goes, as far as water usage goes. Just define what your goals are. And then take a look at your sewer and water bills. The institution I mentioned that we were at in Texas recently was running between $35,000 to $40,000 a month in water and sewer. And so their goal was to reduce that number. They were just screaming about the cost of it because the cost of utilities, like everything else, is going up. And so this allows you, through the limiting the use of water in a humane way, to address those costs. I would strongly recommend that you consult your jail administrator and or your maintenance staff also. What are the problems? What are we bumping into? What are we trying to accomplish? And I would also strongly recommend you talk to your design professional and say, look, what have you seen and what should we be thinking about? This technology is not that costly, but it is something that I think could be considered and should be considered. And then another option is to install a test system. Try it out. See what you think. Put it in a cell. It's not hard to do, especially the fixture-specific controllers. Yep?
Have you done as you mentioned before, I apologize, have you done sort of an analysis to show that savings on utilities can pay for the quote-unquote premium that might cost to put in some of these controls and valves?
Have you been looking at my presentation? Okay, well, I'm getting right there. Give me 1 second. I appreciate the lead in there. Yes is the answer to that. But I like that. That's great. Water savings calculator right there. Wow. All right, send me your invoice later. I'll get it. I'll make sure it gets paid. Yeah. A water savings calculator is a simple calculator we put together. This is something you can load in your fixture-specific data. So if you look at the blue areas, and I've got to put my glasses on because I can't look at the blue areas without them. I can't see anything. That's age for you. But essentially what we're doing here is there's categories in the top chart there for shower use, toilet use, lavatory use. And average inmate use, these are in minutes per day with regards to shower, toilet use, flushes per day, and lavatory use with regards to minutes per day again. The lavatory isn't that big of a water hog. It's a half GPM. Your shower is where you're spending your money. Your toilet's where you're spending your money, both on water and on sewer. And then you look at the multiplier and you say, you could question these numbers, but you'd be shocked how many times, you may not be shocked, you could be shocked, how many times a day people flush a toilet in a cell. It's incredible. We've put counters on. It's amazing. This is for one inmate, and basically it multiplies out when you load in the fixture-specific data. The next blue column over there under multiplier is gallons per minute on the shower, which is a typical 2.5 gallon per minute flow rate. And then gallons per flush is the next one, the 1.6, although most of you, I said that's probably incorrect. Many of you still have 3.5 gallon flush toilets. Some of you have 5 gallon flush toilets. It's a lot of water. And then the lavatory, which is only a half gallon per minute. So that typically doesn't give you a lot of savings. But when you load in that data, and then in the next chart down, load in what you'd like, what you want to do, what your target goals are for usage, you know, how many minutes a day should they be allowed for a shower? Load it in. How many flushes should they be allowed? What's humane and reasonable? And then on the lavatory use, you may or may not want to limit it, but basically if you do, you can load it in. And essentially what you're doing here by loading in that data is giving yourself figures to result in, and going through the math to the next table, individual calculations, facility calculations, and then dollars based on that. The blue columns on the lower left, or they're not columns, the blue areas where you enter data. How many inmates do you have? What's your water cost per 1,000 gallons? What's your sewer cost per 1,000 gallons? Load in that information, and then our estimate comes out on the lower right. This is a starting spot. This isn't, I'm not telling you this is going to, you know, solve all your problems, but at least it's going to give you an idea of, should I even think about this? Should I do this? And I would also add that our focus today is new construction, but those of you that have existing facilities may want to think about this from a renovation standpoint, because over 50% of what we do in this world is renovation as opposed to new construction. Okay, so Demos, Joe mentioned, we'll be outside. We can show you the systems. That's what I've got. Questions?
So have you, the renovation piece is interesting. Have you attempted to monetize those savings in any way to help finance installation of a new product?
We are sometimes, and this may be where you're going, but there are times when we get involved with certain what are called ESCOs, so energy services companies. And there's some here today. Performance Services, I know, is here. There may be others. But a lot of times, the savings on the water side is part of a bigger savings package. Typically, it's going to be lighting is going to be one of the big boys, and they'll put us in with that. And we're involved with a number of ESCOs now around the country, specifically, that are doing that as part of an overall savings package. And again, we can get you pretty close on what your expected savings should be. Some of the ESCOs will even guarantee those savings if they feel comfortable enough with the numbers. Yes, Greg.
I'll ask the final question because we're tight on time. Typical jail, gallons per day per inmate, before and after.
Well, I'll do quick math as quick as I can. Do you give them a 10-minute shower? Say you give them, maybe that's too long, 5-minute shower, whatever. 10 minutes, I can do the math quicker. 10-minute shower, 2.5 gallons flow, 25 gallons. Flushing's the big one. If you have a 3.5-gallon flush, you do 10 to 15 flushes. That's another 10, so 3.5, so that's another 35 gallons if it's 10 or 50 gallons. So what are we up to now, 75, 80 gallons, and then you roll in the lav usage for whatever that might be. That's one inmate. Now, if you're double bunked, now you got that times 2, obviously, for that facility, or for that cell. And that's on people that behave well.
So 100 gallons a day would not be unusual for inmate. What about after water controls? Any metrics on that?
Our typical target is a 50% reduction. What you have to be aware of is what is suitable. You don't want to create undue strife or hardship for the folks, but at the same time, you have costs are real, and it's not a spa, so it's completely up to the facility to make those calls. But a lot of times we target 50%.